that's a bow and arrow. It fits just okay on his hand. It's a little bit small at that point to pull an arrow onto. But if the other hand can hold an arrow I can build, that I haven't built yet, then maybe like an ice or a poison arrow or whatever arrows, he could actually have them just pulling against the string just barely. Now at least it's not too big, but just barely pulling. This is what actually resulted since making the claymation. I didn't even use half the clay. I just used parts of those clays to make it. And smallest clays I used was for the pupils. Biggest clays is probably the maybe the backpack or the gray clay. I mean the pants, I will say that when I added the legs, I had the legs go all the way around his torso before putting the pants on him, and that made it easier to make it thicker. So, especially when I sculpted it better with the tools, I especially used this tool to make a lot of the details. So that's what happened. I did something really cool with the jacket where I surrounded his whole body with it in different layers, even with the head. I did the same thing with the head, the top of his head, but I did like this X diagram where I wrapped around his body and arms doing that. It was a little tricky to, as soon as I started doing that, especially when I was adding the colors for his backpack and his neck, as soon as I was adding parts of his chest together, he didn't have room for the neck or his torso for his clay body, or even for like the curved whiskers, or even just having enough room for his yellow sleeves, or even just plenty of things that were compromised over time adding the backpack and this jacket. The arms I did work towards. I had for his fingerless gloves. I kind of bracketed his gloves first, and then I added fingers without having to make them directly inside the skin, unlike the pants and legs. But with the smaller the clay gets, the harder it keeps to hold its form, as opposed to when it's big, it's harder to mold all at once. But like when it's really small and micro-sized clay, then it almost fades away entirely. So by the time I was making it this small for his eyes, it was hard to keep in form, so I was extra careful with that, but yeah.